One of the first encounters in Magick is ritual terms like lesser, greater, and supreme. What do they actually mean, and which should you practice? While my viewers know the answer, checking Occult subreddits during the holidays made me think others could benefit from addressing it. So what better time than the beginning of the year, when many embark on a magical journey? The idea is to provide a general overview, not an exhaustive explication of the individual techniques. For those new to my work, I go by the name of POTB. I discuss esotericism, human potential, and creativity. Stick around if that sounds interesting, and if you need magic manuals or diagrams, visit my Etsy store as it likely has what you need. Lesser versus greater. The first to clarify is that lesser doesn't mean less special or exciting, just like greater and supreme do not imply more and more special and exciting. All this is a terminology describing rituals serving different purposes, so let's start with the first. Lesser rituals. The term lesser translates into general, unimportant, non-specific, preliminary, non-particular, etc. In Golden Dawn-based approaches, the lesser rituals set operational, magical, or quote-unquote sacred space or field. Basically, they enable your workings to take place. Analogies include creating a working frame, building a structural foundation, and providing a clear or blank slate or canvas when using the conventional banishing method. According to the more unconventional or left-field operant theory, combining different lesser rituals creates different frames. You can think of this as filters predetermining the scope of your workings. For example, lesser banishing rituals create more stereo and isolated environments. Lesser invoking rituals engage the external world more directly. More on that by the end, and in my manual on this approach. The bottom line is this: lesser rituals commence your operations, so they are special in their own right. The pentagram precedes the hexagram, which alludes to the idea that before dealing with the macrocosm or the external world, you must first achieve a balance within the microcosm or your internal world, as covered in a moment. Other applications of the lesser rituals include banishing after workings, separating thought forms from your personal sphere, purification, centering, and grounding with the lesser pentagram when feeling overwhelmed, jittery, or uneasy. Earth. The lesser pentagram or LRP utilizes the earth element. This is actually symbolic, as the earth synthesizes all others, as seen in the sphere of Malkuth in the Tree of Life and the lower shaft of the Rose Cross. The first is the result of all processes in the tree, the second is the synthesis of spirit after its expansion into the upper shafts. Both ascribe to the earth element, sharing many commonalities with spirit, as both contain everything. The first is the potential, the second, the manifested forms. Elemental hexagrams. The lesser hexagram identifies you with the sun, surrounded by the zodiac belt. Traditionally, that uses the Golden Dawn elemental hexagrams assigned to the cardinal positions as follows: Aries Fire East, Earth Capricorn South, Air Libra West, and Water Cancer North. This enables you to work from a position of great balance. Saturn. Alternatively, LRH uses Saturn Earth hexagrams, which can be unicursal. The reason again is that Saturn, which is Bina, is the 32nd path of Taf, the universe card, and the four elements right above Malkuth, the throne of Bina. And now, let's cover what this actually means in the cases of LRP and LRH. The Microcosm. The pentagram represents the microcosm, or the small and inner world, the personal realm or sphere of being, and the elements forming our psychological makeup. The LRP is a microcosmic ritual working with microcosmic influences like entities, energies, thought forms, etc. It doesn't cover things beyond the personal sphere, which is set to proceed right after the skin. The banishing form, or LBRP, eliminates or disconnects anything connected to it. The invoking, LRP, brings it to its forces from the immediate environment. And for beginners, it heightens awareness of those which have always been around. The Macrocosm. The hexagram represents the macrocosm, or the bigger and external world or universe. Also the inter- and transpersonal spheres or realms, which microcosmically seem different and separated for each individual. Magick associates macrocosmic influences with the classical planets and the sun and the 12 zodiac signs. The lesser hexagram deals with these. Its banishing form purifies the astral realm from such influences, whereas the invoking engages them. And this is what the earlier mentioned great balance enables. The key point here is that, like the LRP is not a specific elemental, but a general microcosmic right, LRH is not a specific planetary or zodiac, but a general macrocosmic one. And now, let's proceed with the next stage, the greater and supreme rituals. Greater rituals. Right off the bat, the opposite of what we covered thus far basically applies here. Magically, greater and supreme translate into specific, peculiar, particular, etc. The main function of the Greater and Supreme rituals is to attune your space or field to a particular force. For example, in the case of the Greater Pentagram GRP, this is an element. In that of the Greater Hexagram GRH, a planet or a zodiac sign. The Greater and Supreme rituals have dedicated variations for each force they work with. Following Kabbalistic correspondences, these combine symbols, colors, god names, etc. So yes, they are special in this particular way. Lesser rituals don't serve their purpose. Leave such misconceptions in the previous year and instead consider Greater and Supreme rituals as adding predominant shades and even outlines to your canvas and or building on top of your structure. Besides attuning the space, the Greater and Supreme Pentagrams can also bring the 4 elements in a balanced way. More on that in a moment. SRP. This brings us to the zodiac signs, which ascribe to both element and the planet. The original Golden Dawn used the Supreme Pentagram SRP for both elements and zodiac signs. They also used the 4-element SRP to start their operations, and this actually makes sense as besides angelic and hard sephirotic names, SRP incorporates personal and transpersonal forces. Opening by Watchtower. Emphasizing banishings for the lesser rites, Regardi built the Opening by Watchtower or OBW on SRP. OBW has a single variation, which is 4 elements. It intends to optimize the space for mystical and practical operations, so it's also foundational and preliminary. More on that is in my cheat sheet on the right. Modifications. When reforming the Golden Dawn into Astrum Argentum, Crowley included several adjustments. 1. Streamlining the Supreme into a Greater Pentagram, excluding zodiac signs and Enochian names. 2. The Supreme Hexagram, which originally didn't cover zodiac signs, was rebuilt into the Greater, now including both planets and signs, as they are both macrocosmic. 3. Unlike SRH, using Golden Dawn's elemental hexagrams, GRH handles all these through variations of the Earth hexagram, which can also be unicursal. Like the lesser hexagram, kept by the Golden Dawn for its inner order, these greater rituals were now incorporated into the outer order. There's an argument that these are simplifications. I beg to disagree regarding GRH as it works with the dual natures of planets and signs. It can also work with elements as covered in my videos on GRH versus SRH and the unicursal hexagram. Regarding the SRP, I feel that has more resemblance with the Telemic Liber V and the more inner order GRP, which both place you above Tiferet. While this is a separate discussion, such rites do not necessarily attune you only to elements, but transpersonal, global currents and egregores. But these are just personal observations. So let's recap the most essential we covered. Recap. To sum it all up, here are a few takeaways from the whole video. 1. The lesser rituals are general and used for non-specific invocations and banishings. They create a magical space. The lesser rituals commence and often conclude your practices. Greater and Supreme rituals are specific. They attune your magical space to a particular force. Supposedly, you can think of it like this. The lesser rituals enable the Greater and the Supreme rituals. The Greater and the Supreme rituals enable practical magic and mystical operations. If you know some correspondences. Some claim no one has ever accomplished quote-unquote enlightenment or practical results with only the lesser rituals. My question is, has anyone achieved either without them? But that's just my opinion or question. Let me know your thoughts, subscribe, check my manuals, and thank you for your time.